answer. That's with my father, Warren Mitchell. My dad collected a lot when I was a kid, and I'd follow him along to comic shops. When I got into high school, I started wanting a couple bigger books, and that's when we started buying some more books so we could sell a couple, keep a couple ourselves, and that just kept growing and growing and growing. It got to a point where I realized that comics aren't the only thing you can buy, and you have car insurance to pay for and all that fun stuff, gas, right? So you could sell a couple more comic books. And then my eyes went a little higher, and I kept looking at bigger comic books. So one of the big ones that I wanted right off the bat was an Amazing Spider-Man #1, which I did when I was in high school. So it just kept growing and growing and growing through buying more and more comic books, and here we are with something near 500,000.
Yeah, like Jaden said, but I started myself when I was in grade 6. A buddy took me to a store that sold comics on a spinner rack, and I was like, oh, this is kind of cool, and I bought I bought a bunch of everything and figured out what I liked, and then continued that hobby until about the year 2000 when Jaden was born. I was newly married, new house, new car, new kid, and I sold everything cheap and got rid of it. And then as the movie Iron Man 1 was being filmed, I kind of got back into it, and then I drew Jaden in, and my other son a little bit. He's since gone back into other things, but it's a rabbit hole, man.
So as I said before, when I was in high school, so probably about 14, that's when we started flipping books. I remember the Logan movie was coming out, and I had a bunch of copies of the first Old Man Logan, so I started selling those on like Facebook Marketplace. After that, we started buying more collections and selling them on Facebook and eBay and places like that, but not really officially. There wasn't a name to it. It was just Jaden and Warren selling comic books. That ended after I was in high school, so the summer after high school, I was off to University of Waterloo. We decided, that's it, we're done, I have to focus on school. So the week before I moved to Waterloo, we sold every last book we had in our inventory to friends of ours who were starting an online business, still good friends of ours, and sold every last book. We're like, we're done, that's it, that's all. I went to school. The first weekend I was at school, Dad texted me, just went to a garage sale, guy had 10 long boxes, they're in the trunk. And I was like, thought we were done, but okay. So I came home that afternoon, I priced it up to sell it to a bunch of other dealers, texted them out, sort of, here's the information, this is what we want for it. We were just going to do a quick flip and sell those 10 boxes, right? They took too long getting back to me, and we kind of kept thinking and went, well, what if we do put a name to it? What if we start a Facebook page? What if we start a website? So we went that route. I brought the books back with me to Waterloo. They lived in my dorm, and we started working on the website. At that point, within a month or so, we also added a mobile app. So we were the first comic shop in the country to have a mobile app. There have been many to follow us since, but we were the first, and we still have the most books by a long shot, with about almost 500,000 books browsable on our app. We started that all when I was in Waterloo, so that would have been fall of 2019. Fall of 2019 was when we started that, when I was at the University of Waterloo. So spring of 2020, then you're looking at, of course, COVID. So we had ramped it up pretty well through those 6 months that I was at Waterloo. COVID sent me home. We brought home all the books with us. I could focus a lot more on it. School kind of took a back seat, and comics jumped up there for sure. At the same time, all of our brick and mortar regular comic shops had to close, right? So we were starting an online comic shop in Canada, which there's lots in the States. There were very few in Canada. At the same time that all of the brick and mortar stores were closed, and you couldn't go in and pick up your new books every week. So we were poised at the perfect time there, and it really exploded. So within a few months, we went from just me to Dad quitting his full-time job to adding 1 employee to adding 2 employees to getting a storage locker to getting this room to getting a warehouse, all within a few months. And that was 3 years ago, and it's not slowed down since, that's for sure.
Oh, tough question, because there's honestly been so many. There's been the good, the bad. You know, expanding to the 4,000 square feet warehouse out back, getting into this building, having sales that boggle your mind, doing shows, spending time with my family, the break-in. There's just so many things that I could not pinpoint one, because every month surprises me. We do have ebbs and flows. We put a sale on at Christmas, we see a massive spike in sales. Fortunately, we've built a name for ourselves that customers know us to be reliable and provide a product that they want. What we advertise is what they get. And we just continue to attract customers. Unfortunately, customer service is a major factor, not unfortunately. Customer service is a major factor. Unfortunately, there's not as much of it in this industry. right? I come from a customer service background. I am very familiar with how to make sure a customer's happy, make sure they're content with what they've got. Make sure if there's a problem, we do our best to fix it. And that doesn't happen a lot in this industry. So that's a strength of ours to help continue to grow our sales, right? Because they see, oh wow, Capt can do this, then I'm going to divert more of my purchases to Capt. So we'd like to see that factors in a steady growth month over month. We have people sell us stuff all the time. As I mentioned earlier, we were at a show in Windsor, the Northern National, last weekend, and it truly surprised me how many people came to sell comic books to us. There wasn't a lot of comic book people in the building, so we didn't have a lot of competition. But Jaden followed a couple guys out to the parking garage, opened their trunk to buy collections. They were prearranged. He knew they were coming because they wanted to come here at one point when he wasn't here, and then we told them that we're going to be down there. We have customers walk in all the time with collections. Could be a box, could be 5, 10 boxes at a time. We like to joke that every time Doug Ford used to announce a lockdown, we would get a collection on our doorstep that day, every single time. It's crazy. But that's all back issues. New release books, we get anywhere from 5, 6, 7, 8,000 new books a week from all the different distributors, whether it's the Marvel books, the DC books, Image, so on and so forth. We have pre-sales for those in the thousands every week, so we make sure we order enough to fill after sales as well.
We deal with a lot. So we've had Hulk 1 in the $25,000 range, Fantastic Four #1, similar. Spider-Man #1s, as I just said, going through in that range. Spider-Man's also the winner. We've had an Ultimate Fallout #4, the Durjavec variant from 2011, which is pretty well the biggest modern book. It's the first appearance of Miles Morales. Most people or most kids you ask these days, who's Spider-Man and Miles Morales? It hurts my heart a little, but it's not Peter Parker to them, it's Miles Morales. So the first appearance of Miles Morales in the ultra hard to find variant is about a $30,000, $40,000 book. So we've had one of those through. Another very popular one, this is my personal copy, is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles #1. So we just had another customer drop off a copy yesterday, a first print. Mine's a lowly second print. It came out the month after the first print, but it's almost as hard to find. It's a small fraction of the price, but still a second print of this is about an $8,000 book. So TMNT is also very high up there. Definitely Amazing Spider-Man #1. So that, again, was one of the ones I wanted when I was in high school. I was in grade 12 when I bought my first copy. I have personally owned 4 copies. This here now is my current copy. It's certainly my favorite. It looks the nicest, but it does have some hidden flaws. At the same time, it's also one of the most popular comics we get in store. So we've had 5 or 6 copies over the last 3 or 4 years. This is the current copy we have in stock. So that's a 2.5 for $12,500 Canadian. This is the second appearance of Spider-Man. It's 1964. It's the first appearance of J. Jonah Jameson. It really starts to tell that story of Spider-Man. Spider-Man first appeared a few months prior in Amazing Fantasy #15, right? Stan Lee and Steve Ditko introducing this hero to the world. He was so popular off of just that first issue, that first premiere issue, that he ended up getting his own solo series. Spider-Man then ran 444 issues in Volume 1, and Volume 2 up to 700. So he has been Spider-Man's Marvel's most popular character since 1964. So Spider-Man 1 is the winner for me. It's my favorite personal book, and it's just about the most popular book we get in the store too. So
I started, when I was a kid, Avengers and Iron Man were my favorites. Hands down favorites. Hence the Capt character looks a lot like Iron Man. That's just the way it works. When we started this, I didn't own a copy of Iron Man #1, right? This was always my dream book. And I started with a low grade copy, raw, and I've bumped it up. And I'm gonna stay here right now at the 9.2. It's a beautiful book. This is my favorite personal book in my collection. He may have Spider-Man, it's worth a lot more, but this is my favorite because this is my character, so.
All right, this is an Iron Man #1 from 1968. So this is the later end of the Silver Age of Marvel comic books, but this is one of Marvel's big premiere issues from 1968. So Iron Man first appeared, as many characters do, in sort of a prototype story, right, before getting his own title. So Tales of Suspense 39 introduces Iron Man. Iron Man had a lengthy run in Tales of Suspense before being popular enough to get his own ongoing series. So this is an Iron Man 1, 1968, on the higher end of the grading scale than some of the books we've talked about before. This is a 9.2, which is a near mint minus. It's also impressive for a book book of this age, it has white pages. So the page quality is certainly an important factor. So for an Iron Man 1 from 1962 and a Near Mint Minus with white pages, this is one of my dad's absolute favorite books. And it took quite a while to hunt down a copy this nice. Another book, this is from my personal collection I showed earlier, is the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles #1. So this is the first appearance of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. This is a second print. It came out a month after the first print. The first print, I believe they printed 3,000 copies. The second print, about 4,000. This copy has been signed and sketched by Kevin Eastman. It's a 9.0 out of 10. While that might be a little bit easier for a book from 1984, one of the things to note on this particular book is that it was produced in an oversized format. So it's kind of an awkward size. It's not your traditional comic book. That's why it's in this bigger holder. But not being your traditional comic book, it was a little harder for people to take care of, right? It didn't fit in the boxes the same way. It didn't fit in the bags and boards the same way. So they weren't all preserved quite as nicely. So while this book isn't as old as some of the other ones, it's pretty well one of the biggest modern comic books. It introduces the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, which it's harder to find a more iconic brand than that. And it's definitely one of the favorite books in my collection. Another one that I like to collect, I tend to collect Golden Age books. So I like World War II era books. I love 1940s books, particularly from DC and Timely Comics, which later became Marvel. So I do collect Marvel Mystery Comics. I've got a good amount of those, but I'm a big fan of the Batman as well. So this is my earliest issue of Batman. Batman #5. It's got an iconic Scales of Justice cover. This is very early 1940s. I'll take it out here and do a quick flip through, but it's not quite as easy to handle as the Spider-Man #1. It's got an awesome Bob Kane cover. Again, iconic Scales of Justice cover with Batman and Robin fighting the bad guys, right? It's hard to get much cooler than that. And boom, you've got Joker right on the first page there. This is certainly one of my favorites. It's another one that I like to keep raw, and raw meaning not graded, not encapsulated in the CGC case, because it's nice to flip through it every once in a while, right? It is very, very nice. So there you go. You got an awesome Batmobile page there too. Batman knocking out the Joker. Yeah, that's a Batman #5. Big fan of that one. I've had it in my collection now for a few years. And unless an upgrade's coming my way, I have no plans on parting with it, that's for sure. In terms of condition, that one's obviously lower grade. I can't flip through it quite as easily as the Spider-Man, but you can see some of those flaws along the spine. You can see that it looks like some of the center pages are starting to pull out from the middle of the book. You can see this chipping along the edge. Realistically, that's about a 2.5, maybe a 2, but it won't ever go so high as a 3. But again, for my personal collection to sit on my wall, I am very, very happy with that copy of Batman 5. I'd like to go a little bit earlier, maybe get a 2 or a 3, but those are expensive books. And of course, Batman #1 is a very expensive book introducing Catwoman and the Joker. That's realistically the #3 all-time comic book. So a Batman 1 I don't see in my future. I'm very happy with the Batman 5.
Honestly, that's probably the most difficult thing we've had to overcome. It's kind of invasive when somebody takes a saw and takes the locks out of your business and helps themselves, and then you have video that you watch over and over and over again of them just grabbing stuff off your wall and taking off with it. The fact that we were able to get most of it back was a huge stress relief, and well, just relief period. It also opened our eyes to what the police can and cannot do. It's things like that that we did not expect coming into this business. I would not have expected that. The frustration and the anger and the disappointment and all that. So lots of ups and downs for sure. What was it, 12:45 on January the 9th in the morning, a gentleman pulled up in front of the store, took a grinder, took out the locks, came in here, was in here for a minute and a half, knew exactly where he needed to go, what books he needed to grab, took 42 books for about $80,000. We've since fortunately recovered 70-ish thousand of those dollars and 27 books. They hit an auction site. My son's fiance actually was a detective of her own and found them, and this company was fantastic. Once we contacted them, both us and the police, they took the auctions down. They sent us the books back, everything that they had, so on and so forth. We were quite fortunate that way. We did find that the police were not able to do as much as we thought they could do with, you know, after the fact and selling of stolen merchandise apparently isn't as illegal as we thought, because you have to sell it to the police. You can't just sell it to the public for the police to act, right? They can't have a civilian act as an agent of the police or have it perceived as such. So they can't have a civilian take the product and then the police arrest them. And we didn't realize that. So it caused extra frustration there. But eventually, most of it worked out in the end. So within 10 minutes of an order being placed on our website, it hits our printer. On that printer will be an image and a SKU that Jaden has developed, a system, so that way it's alphabetically by date, not by title, so the order pullers can go to the aisle and they're not bouncing all over the building looking for books. They, in theory, could be in one aisle for a bunch of them and then jump to the other aisle for the rest. So within 10 minutes of the order hitting the site, that's printed. The next morning, I've got 3 people that are running around the building like crazy people, pulling orders, prepping them. Once we get them all pulled, then we make sure everything's got a new bag and a board. So if it's a new book, like we get the new releases, as I said, right, it's already got a new bag and board on it. Unlike other shops, we do this for every single new book that comes in the building. When it's back issues from collections, we don't always change them right away. So at that point, we make sure they're changed, where they're put together, where they're verified that this order is pulled accurately, and then they go into the hold room, which I'll show you later. Or shipping, for that matter, or ship at that point. Sometimes for months, they're alphabetically sorted by first name. So Alyssa's was pretty easy to find because it was right at the beginning. Bag and board all the books and prep the orders to go into this room or get picked up. We have already next week's new books, or most of next week's new books here ready to go. So this is where all the warehouse inventory lives. And this aisle, when full, can house around 175,000 books from end to end. So our staff know that when they have an order, which my daughter Kennedy is doing right now, pulling orders, they know according to the SKU on the box, on the sheet, which box to go to flip through to find the book that they need. Not only is the image, but the SKU is there, so they have an idea. On the front of every box is the numerical SKU rather, so they know where that book should live. We're in the middle of a condense and shuffle right now. That's why we have a couple empty here, because it takes a lot to move all this stuff, right? And as we sell, boxes get empty, so you got to condense and make space. All right, so if you want to go back the same way we came, we'll show you the processing area and then our office as well.
So this is where most of the books that we purchase come into first. When we buy a collection, they'll come in here. We've got 3 of us on the pricing team that I lead, pricing books to the website constantly. So we're working away on our computers and our extra monitors to look at our past sales, look at other past sales, and determine the price for the books before they go on the website. And then they get processed in here and move out there to be scanned or photographed for the website. And then twice a week they get listed. We do batches of books on our website twice a week, normally a couple thousand per batch. So last night we put up 1,500 new books, which was a little small for a Friday, but next Tuesday we should have 2,000, 2,500. So, and then I hang out down here at my desk, where the little books I showed you earlier came off my wall up here. But this is some of the World War II era stuff. Absolutely. So there's a lot that goes into the comic grading process. That's a lot of what I do here, whether it be sitting at this desk when customer brings books in for submission, I'll go through it with them and point out some of the flaws, things like that, or whether it's at my desk, I'll be reviewing books that we've purchased and assigning them a condition before they hit the website. So there's a lot of factors you have to look at. Not only is it just the condition of the book, but you have to look for restoration. There's a lot of different ways that you can make a comic appear better by adding certain things to it. It's frowned upon in the industry. It was a lot more commonplace in the 70s and 80s. Not necessarily with any malintention, but it might have been just a kid with a Sharpie going, well, I can fix this up and make it look better, right? But that really does hurt the value. So one of the big things of the grading job is to look for that, to be aware of that, to know what those flaws look like and how to detect them. Color touch, pieces added, tear seals, things like that is a big part of it. When you actually look at grading the comic book, you're not necessarily looking for the manufacturing quality, right? There's certain flaws that are inherent with the manufacturing process that really can't be avoided. So you're not really looking for those. You're looking at what's happened to the book after the manufacturing process, right? You're looking for the flaws that have been added after that point. You're looking at the spine to see any sort of spine ticks. You're looking across the cover to see it's very, very, very common for flaws over on this side of the book, right? Just from people holding the book as it was meant to be read, right? That's a very common spot. A lot of those flaws can also be worked out with the press. So that's something we do in-house. We heat the book up to about 180 degrees, depending on the age of the paper and the type of the paper, and we can flatten out some of those imperfections, right? So continuing with the grading, you're looking at the first page to make sure the cover is still firmly attached. You're moving into the centerfold to make sure that the staples are still firm in there. That's another big factor when it comes to pressing, because if those factors aren't firmly attached, adding extra pressure isn't always the best answer. It's a lot that goes into it, and not every book is the same, right? You're looking at books from the 40s. It's very different from looking at a book that came out last week. But in essence, you're looking at the same thing. You're looking at the staples, the spine, the corners. You're looking for water damage. You're looking for writing. You're looking for things like that. When you do it all day, you're also looking for completeness, right? When you do it all day, you get pretty good at that. If a book is missing one page, your average book is 32 pages. If a book is missing one page, it's a title that I've handled often, it's a series I've handled often, I can pretty well know just by picking up the book if it's missing one page. If it's more than one page, I can certainly tell just by holding it. It's just something you get used to and get good at, but those are just a few of the things you look for. This is my personal copy of Amazing Spider-Man #1, so this is March of 1963. So I'll show you some of the key things to look for when grading a book like this, and some of the fun features of a Spider-Man 1. So first off, in the top corner, you can see there's been a little bit of water damage. You can see, I'm going to use a pen. The pen is closed. I'm not drawing on the book, but it's easier to point some stuff out. There are some tide lines on that top corner. You can see that water has gotten to the book and damaged it. You can see over at the staple here, there's a little bit of a pull, as well as a good accumulation of defects along the spine. When you get down to the bottom edge here, this is one of the very important things to note on this copy. Unfortunately, one of the previous owners touched up a few of these little green spots in the bottom and added color back to make it look as if it was never missing in the first place. And that's what's referred to as color touch. So color touch, while it might seem simple or harmless, is a form of restoration, and that is quite the value killer on a book. It's not the only restoration on this copy, but it is the restoration on the front cover. Moving into the book, you do need to look at the page quality, right? So the page quality on this one is quite nice. However, again, you can see that tide line in the top corner where water has damaged this book. So not many people get to see there the inside page of an Amazing Spider-Man #1. So again, this is the second appearance of Spider-Man. It's kind of a scrawny looking hero, but that's the way Mr. Steve Ditko drew him, with everyone knows Stanley wrote. Moving into the book, this is where the restoration gets a little worse. So this is a very unique form of restoration I've never seen on another book. It looks as if someone had cut out this interior panel at one point and put it back in with essentially whiteout. So that's been put back in. That means this book is pretty well permanently restored. You could remove that piece, but then the book is incomplete. The restoration that's on the cover with that sort of color touch could be removed and potentially have this book be unrestored, but with that interior panel being the way it is, it will never exist as an unrestored copy. It will either be unrestored or incomplete. But for my personal collection, this one presents beautifully. It's a little bit more affordable than an unrestored copy, so I'm very, very happy to have it in my collection. Moving forward, the other big thing to check on a book like this would be the centerfold, which I just missed. We'll flip open to it there. You can see where the staples are attached, and they're still nice and firmly attached, holding the pages in. One of the other things is completeness for sure. So books like this from the early 60s Marvel often had things like a pinup like this, personal message from Spider-Man. So hi friends, hope you enjoyed the issue of the new Amazing Spider-Man. Things like this were often clipped out and put on people's walls, so they don't necessarily, not all copies necessarily have that inside, so it's an important thing to look for to make sure all the pinups are there as well. This is a complete copy. Again, the centerfold is firmly attached. The cover is firmly attached, albeit the restoration, and the back cover is nice as well. You see some more of that, the water damage in the top corner, a little bit more on the bottom as well. All things considered, this copy is about a 3.5 on a 10 grading scale, which is a VG minus, a very good minus. A lot of people think that a very good is a much higher grade than it is, but a very good in this case, in the case of comic books, is a low grade. So a VG minus, very good minus, is a 3.5. The grading scale goes all the way up to 10, with the most common high grade being a 9.8 and near mint. A near mint of this would be a very, very, very expensive book if it were to exist. It really doesn't. A near mint is hundreds of thousands of dollars. A 3.5 with restoration, I paid $8,000 for this copy personally. An unrestored 2.5 that we have in stock is $12,500. So there's the two Spidey ones. This one in the CGC case that it can't be removed from. My personal copy I like to keep raw because every once in a while it's fun to flip through. But yeah, there's a couple very historical books. So, and that's a little bit of a walkthrough of how to grade them.
I want this to continue to grow. Jade and I are very much alike, and we're not satisfied with an even keel. It's got to keep upward trajectory. There's no point in just riding it along like that. You want to make sure this. I personally want to leave this behind for my family, right? I want to build a legacy. I want to grow it, and we're the right two to do it.